want to introduce you to a man named Charles E. Bowles. Charles Bowles was a character from more the Wild West days, the late 1800s. And he was actually a California outlaw. He robbed the Wells Fargo stages many, many times. He was a lone hooded figure that you would know him better by as Black Bart. From 1875 to 1883, he worked alone, carried a double-barreled shotgun, 12 gauge, and he would rob these stages as they came through the deserts and the different passes, from the Sierra Nevadas down to the Sonoma coastlands. There was no Wells Fargo stage that was safe from him. As a matter of fact, there was no other stages he robbed except Wells Fargo stages, which caused a lot of conundrum among investigators. Why just this one branch? Maybe they did him wrong. 29 different stages Black Bart robbed, and he became quite a character. There was little stories began to be written about him, little sort of comic books being made about him, dime store novels that were being created about Black Bart, this sinister figure who robbed these stages single-handedly. And he's quite a unique character because while he was robbing people, he would quote poetry. Poetry that he himself wrote, and wasn't anybody else. He liked to share bits of his own poetry with people as he was plundering them. When he was finally caught, there was some amazing things that were found out about Black Bart. This great historical Wild West outlaw figure that's actually quite humorous. Come to find out that whenever he went on a location to rob a stage, he was always on foot. He was never on horseback, and when they'd go to investigate, it was crazy because they couldn't find hoof prints leading to some direction that Black Bart went. It was because he was afraid of horses. Here's an outlaw that's afraid of horses. He didn't want to travel on a horse. When they caught him, they found out, they thought it was this bloodthirsty, young, vicious man, and it really wasn't. He was an older gentleman, a very gentle gentleman from the Midwest. Wasn't a vicious bone in his body. As a matter of fact, he never shot a single person. There was never an altercation with guns. Nobody ever got hurt in the 29 stages he robbed because Black Bart never loaded his shotgun. Think about that. 29 armed robberies with an empty shotgun. He was a dangerous man who chose to be harmless. That's hilarious to me. That's crazy. Yeah, that's stuff you just can't make up. And then there's something that the Apostle Paul talks about in the book of Philippians that kind of goes in this same manner. Now, I want to show this to you in Philippians chapter 2, and let me kind of set the stage here. Paul is talking to the church. He's not talking to the Black Barts. He's not talking to outlaws. He's not talking to vicious people. Paul is talking to the church. And in Philippians chapter 2, starting in verse number 12, he says this: "Therefore, my beloved, as you have always obeyed, not as in my presence only, but now much more in my absence, work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. For it is God who works in you both to will and to do for His good pleasure," making you want to live for Him. "Do all things without complaining and disputing, that you may become blameless and," now here's an interesting word, harmless. Do all things as you live the Christ life, as you're tracking this life out to be more like God. Do all things without complaining and disputing, that you may become blameless and harmless, children of God, without fault in the midst of a crooked and perverse generation, among whom you shine as lights in the world, holding fast the word of life, so that I may rejoice in the day of Christ, that I have not run in vain or labored in vain. Paul was saying to the church, don't be dangerous. You live among people who cut throats. You live among people who stab in the back. You live among people who throw others under the bus or down the stairwell, so to speak, in order to get what they want or to live. They are vicious people because that's the nature before Christ. That's who we were before Christ. We were harmful people, looking out for number one, doing whatever it took to preserve ourselves. And then Paul says, wait a minute. Now that you're the church, I need you to be harmless. Christ needs you to be harmless, not dangerous. The Christ life. As we walk the Christ life, it means that we walk in such a way that we're gentle. Not weak, but we're gentle. So that when people see us, they're not seeing that old way. They're not seeing people that act like this out in the world. They don't need to see who you were before you came to Christ. They need to see the change. And Paul says, live blameless, live harmless among people. The sad part is there's a lot of harmful people in church. Not all of them, but it seems like in a lot of churches there's people who will hurt you. There's people who are malicious. I'd like to say the church is a perfect place. It's not. But the church was Christ's creation. It is not a reason to not go to church. But when we come to church, there may be those that are mean. There may be those that are malicious. Pray for them. Be patient with them. Let God change them. But you yourself, as you live in such a way that people see Christ through you. Live in such a way that you are harmless so that you're drawing people to God, not away from God. Live in such a way that people see Christ in you. God bless you. I love you. I pray that you have a great week. Pray that you have a harmless week. You have a good one in the Christ life.